NCERT Class 8 History Chapter India After Independence Balance. How were states to be formed? Back in 1920s, the International Congress, the main party of the freedom struggle, had promised that once the country won independence, each major linguistic group would have its own province. However, after independence, the Congress did not take any steps to honor this promise. For India has been divided on the basis of religion. Despite the wish and efforts of Mahatma Gandhi, freedom had come not to one nation but to two. As a result of the partition of India, more than 1 million people had been killed in the riots between Hindus and Muslims. Could the country afford further division on the basis of language? Both Prime Minister Nehru and Deputy Prime Minister Vallabhbhai Patel were against the creation of linguistic states. So in 1920s, the International Congress had promised that once the country won independence, each major linguistic group would have its own province. But after the independence, the Congress did not take any steps to honor this promise. And both Prime Minister Nehru and Deputy Prime Minister Vallabhbhai Patel were against the creation of linguistic states. That the Congress leaders would now go back on their promise created great disappointment. The Kannada speakers, Malayalam speakers, the Marathi speakers had all looked forward to have their own state. The strongest protests, however, came from the Telugu-speaking district of what was the Madras Presidency. When Nehru went to campaign there during the general election of 1952, he was met with black flags and slogans demanding "We want Andhra." In October of that year, a veteran Gandhian named Potti Sriramulu went on a hunger strike demanding the formation of Andhra state to protest the interest of Telugu speakers. As the first went on, it attracted much support. Hartals and burns were observed in many towns. So all the Telugu speakers, Kannada speakers, Malayalam speakers, Marathi speakers all had looking forward for their own state. But the most strongest protest came from the Telugu speaking areas of the Madras Presidency. On 1952 October, a veteran Gandhian named Potti Sriramulu went on a hunger strike demanding for the formation of Andhra. On 15 December 1952, 58 days into his first, Potti Sriramulu died. As a newspaper put it, the news of the passing away of Sriramulu enveloped entire Andhra in chaos. The protests were so widespread and intense that the central government was forced to give it in to the demand. Thus, on 1 October 1952, the new state of Andhra came into being. So, on 15 December 1952, Potti Sriramulu died. It was 58 days of the fast. And at last, the central government was forced to give it the demand. On 1 October 1953, a new state Andhra was formed. After the creation of Andhra, other linguistic communities also demand their own separate states. A States Reorganization Commission was set up, which submitted its report in 1956 recommending the redrawing of districts and provincial boundaries to form compact provinces of Assamese, Bengali, Oriya, Tamil, Malayalam, Kannada and Telugu speakers respectively. The large Hindi speakers regions of North India was also to be broken up into several states. A little later in 1960, the bilingual state of Bombay was divided into separate states for Marathi and Gujarati speakers. In 1966, the state of Punjab was also divided into Punjab and Haryana. The former of the Punjabi speakers, who were also mostly Sikhs, the latter of the rest, who spoke not Punjabi but version of Haryani or Hindi. So after the creation of Andhra, other linguistic communities also demand their own states. So one state reorganization commission was set up. It submitted its report in 1956. And one state by another was formed. And in 1960, the bilingual state of Mumbai was divided into separate states for Marathi and Gujarati speakers. In 1966, the state of Punjab was also divided into Punjab and Haryana. Planning for development. Lifting India and Indians out of poverty and building a modern technical and industrial base were among the major objectives of a new nation. In 1950, the government set up a planning commission to help design and execute suitable policies for economic development. There was broad agreement on what was called a mixed economy model. Here, both the states and the private sector would play important and complementary roles in increasing production and generating jobs. What specifically these roles were to be, which industries should be initiated by the state and which by the market, how to achieve a balance between the different regions and states was to be defined by the Planning Commission. So, to lift India and Indians out of poverty, a planning commission was formed in 1950. The government set up a planning commission in 1950 to help design and execute suitable policies for economic development. And there was a broad agreement on mixed economy model. In mixed economy model, the state and the private sector would play important and complementary roles in increasing production and generating jobs. In 1956, the second five-year plan was formulated. This focused strongly on the development of heavy industries such as steel and on the building of large dams. These sectors would be under the control of the state. This focus on heavy industry and the effort at state regulation of the economy was to guide economic policy for the next few decades. This approach had many strong supporters but also some vocal critics. So, the five-year plan. The first five-year plan is in 1951. It focused on agriculture, and the second five-year plan initiated around 1956. It focused on heavy industry. 1956, the second five-year plan formulated. It focused on heavy industries such as steel and building of large dams.